make pancakes. So I'm gonna start with a couple different things. It's gonna be pancakes from this mix here. So obviously you can make pancakes from scratch if you want to. It's really easy. But I have a mix, so I'm gonna use this, some fresh whipped cream, and a berry compote. And so basically you can use either frozen or fresh fruit, whatever you have, but frozen is what we have, so this is what we're doing. But I'm just gonna throw a bit of this into the pot here. Then I'm gonna add some sugar. I'm gonna put a little bit of cinnamon, because why not? Okay, just gonna throw a little bit of salt in there. So now I'm gonna turn it on to medium. I'm just gonna follow the instructions on here, so whatever pancake mix you have, or if you're making it from scratch, just do that now. I thought that we had a bigger whisk. I'm just gonna use this baby whisk. You might be wondering why I'm not using this, and that's just because I'm gonna use it for the heavy whipping cream, and I am too lazy to clean it in between uses, so this works just fine. So now I'm gonna let this sit for a little bit. I'm gonna get started on the whipping cream. X, why is your hair everywhere? Then I'm just gonna add a little bit of vanilla extract for a little bit of flavor, but a little bit goes a long way, especially if you're just doing like this much whipping cream, so don't go crazy with it. And then I'm gonna throw a bit of sugar in there just to sweeten it up, and then you whisk it. You pretty much just want to go until like nice little peaks form. So that kind of consistency looks pretty good. So whipped cream is done. And then we're gonna check in on the berry compote. You don't have to add water to your berry compote at all. I wouldn't recommend it because it's gonna be way too watery. So it pretty much just pulls all the juices out and cooks down all your berries. So this is kind of the consistency that I want. All the fruit is kind of broken down, and it should thicken up a little bit as it cools. I'm gonna heat these up. I got them both from Trader Joe's, but this one is a lemon curd and this one is the cocoa almond spread. So I put a little bit in each little, what are these, like milk containers? I'm just gonna microwave them. I don't know how long it's gonna take to microwave down, but I'm gonna start with like 15 seconds and check on it because I feel like the lemon curd is probably gonna melt down really fast. This one's a little bit thicker, so I mixed a little bit of whipping cream in there just to get it a bit more of a thin texture. So I'm just gonna heat the pan on medium and then grease it a little bit. But it's already like a non-stick pan, so you really shouldn't need that much oil. Make sure that it's all nice and dispersed. And then we're gonna add the pancake batter. I think let's do like a medium-sized pancake. And then we're just gonna leave them until it starts to bubble, which it's already starting to do, which is great. Yeah. And so I'm just gonna make the rest of these and then we can try them.
It's good?
Yeah, it's so good. The berry compote, man, if you're gonna do anything of all these things, at least just make a berry compote because it's so easy. And like the fact that you can make it from frozen fruit is great. Cheers.
Ooh. Wow.
And it's
really
so good. So that is super easy pancakes. You honestly don't have to do all of this. You could even just do like maple syrup, butter, and pancakes. But it's fun to go all out, and it's like so easy to do all the other additional things like whipped cream, berry compote, just heating up your like cookie butter. Oh my god, if you had cookie butter from Trader Joe's, that would be so good.
Thanks for watching.
No, it's not the end because it's gonna go breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So
see you at lunch.
To lunchtime. So for lunch, we are gonna make some quesadillas. It is so easy. I know I say this for all of them, but it is so easy to make quesadillas. Like, you don't need all of this stuff either. You could literally just do tortillas and cheese, which is normally what I do, but I kind of want to make them a little bit meatier and just like bulk it up a little bit so that we actually get full off of eating it. So the first thing I'm going to do is preheat the oven. I'm going to preheat it to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. And then that's where we're gonna bake the quesadillas, and I'm going to bake them on this bad boy here. So just a pan and then some like parchment paper, so that, I mean, you don't even really need the parchment paper, but I feel like if I don't have it, I'm gonna have to clean a lot, which I don't want to do. So actually Dan's gonna clean it, so so the first thing I'm gonna do is fry up some of this lean ground beef, and I'm probably just gonna use about half of this. If you're vegetarian or vegan, then by all means you do not need to add ground beef, but you could also add like stir-fried tofu if you want. If you want to like fry up some tofu with the spices, that would be great. But I'm just gonna plop this onto this here pan, turn it on kind of like a medium high, and since I'm using a non-stick pan, I don't really use oil because there's going to be a lot of like grease and fat that comes off of that. So while I wait for the pan to heat up on the ground beef, I'm just going to open up my refried pinto beans. And for this you could really use any beans, but I find that refried works the best just because then you can like spread it nicely on the tortilla. So since it's starting to sizzle, I'm just going to start to break it up. And ground beef cooks really quickly. You could honestly use ground beef, ground chicken, ground pork. You could also use Beyond Meat if you have that at your grocery store. But I find that ground beef is probably like the cheapest of all of the ground meats. You're just gonna cook it until it's no longer red or pink. So now that this is all cooked down, I'm just gonna turn off the heat, remove it from the heat. Just drain a bit of this fat because we don't really need all of that. So then to the beef mixture, we're gonna add green chilies. And again, you don't have to do this if you don't like spice, but we do, so we're gonna add this. So I'm probably just gonna use about half of this can, and I'll save the other half for when I make this next time, just about that much. And then we're also gonna throw in all the spices now. So this is a chipotle chili pepper, a bit of garlic powder, and some cumin. Put a little bit of salt and pepper. And then you mix it all together, and that is it for the beef mixture, which we're gonna throw on top of the quesadilla. So next I'm gonna just dice up the avocado and throw that on top. This is just half of a leftover avocado that I had from the last time we made chicken tacos. I'm gonna do my best to spread them out, but it really doesn't look like they're gonna spread very far. And then we're just gonna add the beef mixture on top of this. Make sure that you spread it all out. And then the last thing that's gonna go on top is cheese. So we have mozzarella, which we don't have a ton of left, and then we also have cheddar, so I'm just gonna do a mixture of both. And then a little bit of pepper, a little salt, and then seal it off with the last two tortillas. All right, then these guys are ready to go into the oven. So we're gonna leave it in there for about 8 to 10 minutes. You can just check when it's ready, but everything's fully cooked, so it's really just you waiting until the cheese melts and it's like not burned, but like nice and crispy. So once you take it out, you want to just cut it into whatever size pieces you want, really, but I cut it into 4s. Come on, baby. Come on. Oh my god, okay. There we go. Just needed a little assist. And there's the second one. So we also got some salsa. This is just leftover salsa, whatever was in our fridge, and some hot sauce. So that is pretty much all you need to eat the quesadillas.
Yeah, I'm excited.
I am very excited. This is gonna be messy, I can already tell.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Oh yeah.
They're way thicker than when you just make it with cheese. See you guys for dinner. Hello! So we are making a spinach tomato tortellini soup, and it's super easy. The only things that you really need to buy, because like you kind of would have spices and like olive oil and all that, in your pantry, but the only things you would really need to buy is a medium onion. You're just going to use half of it, so if you have half an onion in your fridge, that's great. 3 cloves of garlic, tortellini, crushed tomatoes or diced tomatoes, whatever you have or whatever your preference is. It really doesn't make a huge difference. I also like to add tomato paste, but it's also not super necessary if you don't have it or if you don't need it. And then also chicken broth. You can use either like the chicken broth, like one of these, or you can just use water and like a little bouillon cube. How do you say it?
I have no idea.
Or you can use one of these cubes and water, whatever you want to use for your broth, and then spinach. And that's pretty much it. For the tortellini, you can buy any type of tortellini that you want. I just prefer beef, but I know that a lot of people do this with like a 3 cheese or something like that. So I already cut the onion and the garlic. So again, I did half an onion and 3 cloves of garlic. Use however much you really want to. You'll find that I tend to just eyeball everything. I don't really follow a recipe. I don't measure anything, so it's just kind of like whatever is up to your taste, especially with like a recipe like this. I'm just gonna add some olive oil, turn the heat on to medium, and then you're gonna add the garlic and the onion. So you're just gonna cook this for a couple of minutes. I would say like maybe 1 or 2 minutes until your onions get kind of soft. Smells so good. So now that these are fragrant and soft, I am going to mix in my tomato. So again, you can use diced, crushed, whatever you really want. The only thing that's going to change is kind of the texture of, ooh, that got real splashy, is the texture of your soup. So if you like it like a little bit chunkier, then you might want to go with diced. We're also going to throw in the tomato paste. And again, if you don't have tomato paste, you really don't have to use it. It's just going to help enhance that tomatoey flavor. But I already had like half a can in the fridge that I need to use, so I'm like, why not just throw it in here? And then you're just going to throw in all of your tortellini. These are already pre-cooked. They're cooked all the way through. So obviously if you make fresh tortellini, then you're going to want to cook those through first. And then we're going to add our chicken broth. So I think I'm just going to use 1.5 of these and then add a little bit of water. I'm just going to turn the heat up to max so that we can get it to a boil. And once we get it to a boil, then we're gonna turn it back down and then add the spinach. It's super easy. This recipe is very just like throw everything in the pot. So these are the herbs and spices that I'm gonna throw in. But if you only have like salt and pepper, by all means, don't feel like you need to go out and buy all of these. It's great if your pantry already has it, and it's only gonna enhance the flavor of your soup, but you really don't need to go out and buy these things. It's taken me a while to accumulate like all the spices that I want. And so yeah, if you don't have all of this, then don't feel like you can't make the soup if you don't have it. Just work with what you have and just play around with the different flavors, and salt and pepper sometimes is all that you really need. So now I'm going to add the spices, herbs and spices. So this is basil, oregano. This is umami, and I got this from Trader Joe's recently just because I really like the smell of it, but it's supposed to kind of enhance like the savory flavor of anything you're making, and I've actually really liked adding it to pretty much everything I make recently. So I'm going to throw some of this in there. It's like mushroom seasoning.
Is it mushroom or is it mushroom?
It's did I say mushroom?
Yeah.
Oh, it's mushroom seasoning. And then I'm gonna add in some red pepper flakes because Dion wanted it spicy.
Spicy.
You like the spicy soups.
I
and
love
like
me a spicy soup.
Yeah, like any kind of tomato-based soup works really well with spice as well. So there's that. And then I recently got this chipotle chili pepper, which I am into. So you can use any type of chili for this. You can omit this if you don't like spice. I've also had this packet of bay leaves for forever. So if you are ever hesitant about getting bay leaves because you're like, will I ever use it? Like, I use it in every single type of soup, and like this has lasted me a really long time. And then we're gonna do some salt and pepper. So again, you can use as much or as little spinach as you want. So I'm just gonna use the whole half of this bag. Now that we got ourselves a light little boil going on, I'm gonna turn that back down to like a low so that we can just kind of simmer. And then throw in all of this spinach. Mix it in, and that is pretty much it. You could honestly eat this now if you want. I like when kind of all the ingredients had a little bit of time to get to know each other a little bit, you know, like all of the flavors are integrated nicely. So I'm gonna let this sit for a little bit longer, and then if you have any Parmesan, then you can just sprinkle some of that on top.
Cheers.
Cheers.
So yummy. Say goodbye.